Looks like I need a haircut up in here, huh? Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Simply Cyber is First Things First, your one source, one stop for cybersecurity news daily. We're going to listen to, oh, my camera's all kind of janky. Let me fix that. We're going to listen to the top cybersecurity stories for December 28th, Tuesday. After we listen to each one, I'm going to stop it and give my professional reflective analysis on whatever the story happens to be, how you might be able to use it yourself as a practitioner, how you might be able to leverage it in an interview to just blow the socks off your interviewer, maybe bring an extra pair of socks for them. All good stuff. We have a good time in here. Chat's wonderful. Say hello if you're new here, and if you're a regular, it's always nice to see you again. Got to get some coffee though, people. Hey, Pellant. Oh, good. I'm glad you caught him on replay. Hopefully these replay well. I know there's a lot of value in being here during chat, but I do make them available on replay, hoping that they're good. Jeanette, good to see you. Hope you enjoy the show. My camera's a little janky, people. I'm sorry. I have to apologize. That's usually you don't get to see my mic in there. I'll fix that next time. Good morning, Jay. Good morning, Anthony. Tom, always nice to see you. Yeah, Mansion doesn't wear socks. Alexis, a regular. Good to see you. Nuke Tech. Love you commenting on the videos on the YouTube channel. Oh, yeah, this is good. Coffee. Let me set this up because I forgot to do this. Here we go. There it is. First things first. I hope you guys are ready. Runel, new here. Welcome to the party. Donna, Alex, good to see you. Good. I'm glad that the replays have value, Jeanette. I'm seriously pumped about that. Yeah, coffee is my favorite. Not only IT. Maxwell, good to see you. Oh, where are you, Maxwell? I know we have Malaysia, Nigeria, UK, Ireland, Canada. Obviously, the United States is all up in here. Costa Rica. Yes, very nice. I'll tell you what, people, like I've been thinking about it. I've been teasing it a little bit. In January, probably starting the week of January 13th, I'm going to run I'm going to run First Things First for a few weeks at noon instead of 8 a.m. just to see, how do you guys like it? How's the community like it? Hey, India, love it. Mubaris. I'm going to do it at noon for a couple weeks and see if the West Coast people enjoy it. I know it's going to kind of eliminate some people who may be staying up late to catch this, but I just want to try it out and see what's happening. But that won't be until January, and I'll be posting the awarenesses well in advance so you guys can see. But guess what, guys? It's time to dig into the story. Good, Keith. Hey, Josh. I love seeing you guys every morning. It really has become part of my morning pleasure, like coffee and talking with you all. But let's get into today's stories, huh?
Series, it's Cybersecurity Headlines.
It's Tuesday, December 28th, 2021. Study looks at ransomware market share. Researchers at Intel 471 analyzed 612 ransomware attacks between July and September 2021, finding them attributed to 35 different ransomware variants. 4 ransomware strains accounted for over 60% of all attacks. Lockbit 2.0 accounted for 33%, Conti was behind 15%, Black Matter came in at 6.9%, and Hive was fourth with 6%. The researchers noted this period saw several groups go quiet after external actions forced groups to shut down rather than more typical ransomware rebranding that's internally driven. The most impacted sectors in the attacks analyzed were manufacturing, consumer and industrial systems, professional services, and real estate. Researchers find abundant toolkits to get around.
Sorry, guys, my coffee hasn't kicked in. I didn't even have my layout up properly. Okay, so, basically news story that they did a little bit of analysis of actual ransomware to see, not all ransomware is created equal. Some are more effective, some are more aggressive. As I was listening to this story, I found myself thinking, okay, I actually do run a program in the manufacturing sector. So I'm painfully aware that manufacturing is kind of front and center for ransomware threat actor groups. If you happen to work in any of these particular industries, I mean, it certainly helps. Again, healthcare also is a good one. If you're working in these industries, think about the way that you're defending your organization, or if you're interviewing at these industries, think about it like, listen, yes, we're doing things to protect from ransomware and detect when they happen. Although obviously, when you get hit with ransomware, it's quite easy to detect it because you're getting business operation impact. But okay, so Lockbit 2.0, it definitely has different TTPs from Conti, different TTPs from Black Matter, etc. So maybe digging in a little bit, maybe going into the MITRE ATT&CK framework, looking at what Lockbit 2.0's kind of approach is. Is it spear phishing, right? Is that how they're getting initial infection? Is it SMB shares like Sam used to do, or whatever? I don't know what it is. Like for me personally, I'm taking for action that I'm going to go look into Lockbit 2.0 and Conti after this to get a bit of better understanding of how they're doing it. Okay, so Tom says he's hearing that they're exploiting Log4j. That's quite possible. You should have already been looking quite heavily in your environment for Log4j instances, and if you're finding them working to mitigate the impact of having them there, or remediating the vulnerability altogether. But just know, it's time to peel the onion back, if you will, and look deeper at not just calling it ransomware, but like which ransomware, Conti, Black Matter, Hive, as it's mentioned here. So that's what I would take away from this. Ransomware is not going anywhere. But one other thing really, really quick to share that they said in the story that I found quite interesting is they said it's threat actors shutting down due to external effects instead of internal rebranding. So if Black Matter, which was DarkSide before, I'm pretty sure, Colonial Pipeline ransomware, if you remember that. So they are DarkSide, they hit that big hot target. So now they rebrand to Black Matter. It's a different threat actor group, but you can tell based on the TTPs that it's likely the same group, same people, same tech. So you can't really get away from that. The external entities, that's where law enforcement, Interpol, even rival gangs are, basically shutting you down, or they retire. There's been a couple instances where they retire.
QFA. Researchers at Stony Brook University and Palo Alto Networks found that from March 2020 to March 2021, over 1,200 phishing sites were using reverse proxies, an indicator that operators are trying to bypass 2FA using man-in-the-middle toolkits. This is a significant increase from roughly 200 phishing sites found using reverse proxies in an early 2019 study. These toolkits focus on stealing a user's authentication cookies, which are generated inside a web browser once someone logs into an account with 2FA. The researchers note that these toolkits are often free to download, easy to run, and often have plentiful documentation to operate available online.
Oh, okay. So I didn't catch all this story, but basically what I got out of it was that threat actors are using proxy shells and stealing session tokens in order to bypass MFA. One of the cool things with MFA for an end user experience is once you multi-factor in, you don't have to multi-factor in every single time you switch pages and stuff like that. So they give you that token, that session cookie or whatever, and you can, use it as like a day pass, if you will. And it sounds like people have figured out. I feel like this is like not a new attack, right? Maybe using the proxy shell piece is in it. But again, you just got to protect yourself, educate people on, oh, nice little graphic, educate your people on email phishing and kind of handle that. Mike Jones here, Haunted Hacker, says 90% of what we've seen over the past 13 IRs have been proxy shell. Yeah, so interesting. I educate yourself on proxy shell. I certainly am familiar with the technology, but not like well-versed where I could like talk about it at length. I will mention that as a takeaway, if you've been a fan of the show, we talked yesterday or the day before about ngrok, NGROK, and I said I was going to go look into that. I did that research. It is basically a reverse proxy shell that you can set up on an endpoint inside an environment, and it reaches out, or you can reach into it using a publicly accessible domain that ngrok hosts for you. So definitely want to be careful with that and make sure you're looking for that type of traffic in your environment. Yes, always patch your Exchange servers.
Shutterfly hit with ransomware. The photo
You guys
company
remember
confirmed
Shutterfly,
it experienced
right?
an attack on its network, which disrupted parts of its LifeTouch and Borrow Lenses business, Groovebook, manufacturing, and some internal corporate systems. It maintains credit cards and financial information were not impacted. The Conti ransomware group seemingly took credit for the attack, displaying legal agreements, bank and merchant accounts, and spreadsheets on its leak page. The company declined to comment if it was negotiating on a ransom payment. DuckDuckGo.
Okay, a couple of things here. I mean, personally, I remember Shutterfly from like the early 2000s. You could like print your photos out and stuff like that. It sounds like Shutterfly has kind of grown into this conglomerate of like multiple businesses servicing photographers and all these other things. Um, hit with ransomware, like it's a story because they're a big company, and Conti, which is one of the top ones that we just talked about just a moment ago, right? Um, they are claiming to be the ones behind it. So for me personally, I just bookmark these into a directory that I call ransomware examples. And then when I need to pull one for a security awareness training, or I need to, include just a clip to highlight that this is still happening and it's hitting big companies and it's in your face. I'll just have access to this news story. I feel bad for Shutterfly, but yeah.
Has a big 2021. In 2021, the privacy-focused search engine received 34.6 billion total search queries, up 46% from 2020. StatCounter reports the search engine had a 2.53% market share in the US as of November 2021, up from 2.32% on the year, although this is still fourth behind Google, Bing, and Yahoo. This comes as DuckDuckGo expanded its products offering this year from ad blocking features on Android to an announced web browser set to launch next year.
All right, interesting. So in chat, does anyone use DuckDuckGo? Is that their go-to? Is that their go-to search engine? I will say I've been living on a Raspberry Pi for the last couple of weeks. I'm not streaming from a Raspberry Pi right now, obviously, but I've been living on a Raspberry Pi for the last couple of weeks, and DuckDuckGo is the default search engine on the Chromium browser, which is the default browser on the Raspberry Pi on that Raspbian distro. So I've been using DuckDuckGo. I don't really notice any deficiencies, right? Like I enjoy it. I'm I know it's a big privacy fan of privacy people. I haven't played with any of the other functionality and features. If you know about some of that uh, functionality that makes it even better, drop it in chat. I'd be interested. But yeah, I mean, I'm a Google user. I use Google across tons of stuff, but it looks like DuckDuckGo is getting massive adoption. It's always been there, kind of like the way Firefox was always there, and then it just took off. But this is good for DuckDuckGo. And you hope, like, I hate, again, I'm not really this cynical, y'all, but like, I feel like I'm always cynical on this program. I hope that DuckDuckGo doesn't get bit by the same bug that everyone else does, where you become this massive player and then the people who buy data are like, "Hey, you like money? You like money? We got money." And DuckDuckGo's like, "Okay, yeah, I like money." Yeah, or like it's going to be different. It's going to be different. Like it'll be all anonymous, but we will sell the data and then it gets reallocated or something like that. So I hope it doesn't go that way. I know DuckDuckGo is a tool go to for many people who appreciate privacy.
Now, a word from our sponsor, Look Out. In Information Technology by the South China Morning Post found that the total number of apps in Chinese app stores fell from 4.52 million at the end of 2018 to just 2.78 million apps as of October 2021. Over the course of 2019, the number of available apps fell by roughly 850,000 as regulators cracked down on collection of personal information. 2020 saw available apps fall by 220,000 over the course of the year, followed by a net loss of 670,000 in 2021. This doesn't mean China isn't letting new apps into app stores, with 110,000 apps added in October 2021 alone, just that more are being removed in that same window. The exception is gaming apps, which haven't received any new approvals since July.
Interesting. Okay, so there's a lot to this. Like, I don't even want to really speculate. I guess just from a professional perspective, this is kind of tangential to cybersecurity. Basically, China is China's doing a lot of big tech crackdown right now. If you've been following any of the stories, as far as requiring big tech companies to host their stuff in certain places and give access to all their source code to the government, like, or they get penalized. There's been a lot going on with the big tech. There's no surprise here if they're pushing down using regulations, the number of apps that can be there. Obviously, that's directly impacting the financials of these big tech companies, which I think is how the government might, try to leverage or put pressure on these big tech companies. Again, I don't want to speculate. I haven't really been deep into this, but to me, it is tangential to cybersecurity. If you are working in the China region, or you work with China as a client or as a business associate, or in that market, this would be interesting from a privacy perspective, because I do think that the government, half the reason they're requesting all that source code and stuff is so that they can monitor. Lack of privacy in China is not kind of a new thing. They've always been monitoring. So I think that that's what this is related to. Okay.
EV charging station open to remote hacking. Schneider Electric announced it patched several vulnerabilities in its EV-linked charging stations that could have opened up the hardware to remote attacks. These vulnerabilities included cross-site scripting and cross-site request forgery bugs, and could be exploited either locally through an internal communications port or online if the station was connected to a network. Searches on Shutdown for internet-connected EV stations with the bugs revealed thousands of exposed systems. Some of the patch vulnerabilities impacted end-of-life systems. The bugs were found as part of security researcher Tony Nasser's ongoing report on EV charging station management systems.
Okay. So, electric vehicles, they're coming or they're here, and they're becoming more and more popular. A couple things. It looks like this security researcher found some web application type vulnerabilities. I'm not quite sure, if it's a web app, like APIs, interfaces on a mobile device or on the actual car console. But, it just goes to show you that cross-site request forgery, cross-site scripting, these vulnerabilities exist in 2021, right? Like it's not just an academic exercise when you learn about them. They are quite real and quite there. One thing that I love seeing where, the vendor has credited the researcher, Tony Nassar. I just love that security researchers can be open and, recognized and sometimes financially compensated for their work, instead of being blasted as like a fringe criminal who's, being threatened by the company of legal action if they disclose publicly what they've been saying. We've come a long way in the last 10, 15 years. I know some of the people who've been in the game a little while may know what I'm talking about, like Mike Jones. You may have you may have yourself found some vulnerabilities and not wanted to disclose them earlier in your career. But it's good. It's good. I'm glad that security research is being done on these items. I feel like electrical vehicles, electrical power is, kind of a big deal with climate change and the evaporating coal situation.
QNAP gets more ransomware for Christmas. QNAP NAS devices are no stranger to ransomware attacks and just got another fresh campaign in time for the holidays. Threat actors around the QNAP Crypt ransomware strain ramped up activity about a week before Christmas, taking control of devices with admin privileges. It's unclear what the attack vector is for the attacks, but the attack allows QNAP Crypt to create a user in the admin group and then encrypt all the files on the device. The threat actors have asked for between 1,200 and 3,000 worth of Bitcoin to unlock files. QNAP Crypt is not a new threat to the NAS devices, with attacks dating back to June 2019. It's unclear why there was a sudden spike in activity.
Yeah, I mean, QNAP has had a rough go here. QNAP's been just treated like a whipping child for the better part of 2021 with their NAS devices, and making it super convenient by making it accessible on the internet. But as Mike kind of mentioned before, like Shodan, which scours the internet, makes it incredibly easy to find these devices. And then if it's got default creds, or if there's just some easy point and click vulnerability, then it's easy to overtake, right? I mean, Mirai, if you guys remember Mirai botnet, like that wasn't even that complicated a piece of malware. Like it literally would just pick random IPs and try random default vendor passwords on IoT devices. So, this isn't this isn't a surprise. I'm actually kind of curious. Sorry to do this on the fly. I don't know if QNAP is publicly traded or not, but I'm curious to see if they've suffered any financial. It doesn't look like they're actually publicly traded. Too bad. That would have been funny to see. Okay. Default passwords. Yep.
Res dark web market announces shutdown. The operators of the dark web market announced plans to close the site on a hacking forum. Registration, uploading, purchasing, and support have been disabled, although the market will remain online for the next 2 to 3 weeks to finalize all orders and moderate any final disputes. The operators claim this is not an exit scam, although the exact reason for the shutdown is unknown. Torres came online in April 2020, focused on the sale of narcotics, and was notable for accepting Bitcoin, Monero, Zcash, and Litecoin. I'm Rich Straffolino, reporting for the CISO series.
Okay, so a dark web, basically illegal eBay, illegal kind of Amazon selling mostly narcotics, but I'm sure you can get weapons and fake currency, passports, vaccine cards, all these things. If you haven't gone on the dark web and looked at these things, don't, unless you know what you're doing. You can easily Google, like John Hammond actually has a series of YouTube videos, like 5 of them, I think, where he goes on the dark web and like shows you how it works and looks at the different sites and stuff like that. Much easier, much safer for you to get a little idea of what's going on the dark web without actually exposing yourself to it. But these markets exist, and the site operators said they're doing it on their own accord. I'm sure they're making a lot of money. Yeah, it's kind of like Silk Road. There are several of these. They say they're doing it on their own accord. I suspect that they're probably either don't like the lifestyle of constantly being like freaked out, or they've gotten some type of indicator that they're being monitored, or that law enforcement is now kind of infiltrated and is like a user on their multiple users on their site. So you got to be, obviously they're committing crimes, so you have to be careful. And they probably don't want that lifestyle, or they've made enough money, right? It is possible that you make enough money and you've achieved your financial goals, right? All right. So before we go, that's the end of the stories. I do want to point out, guys, real quick, if you are interested in getting a little bit of exposure to malware analysis, my Simply Cyber video this week was how I do malware analysis. I actually go through 2 pieces of malware. It's interpreted code. It's VBA macros. It's kind of like solving like a Sudoku puzzle or something like that. Like you slowly start de-obfuscating it, figuring out what's going on. You Google some stuff. It's a lot of fun. It takes a lot of time, which is why I also use automated tooling. But I just want to make you guys aware in case you hadn't seen it. If you want to get a little taste, a little idea of what malware analysis is, then you can giddy up on that. And that is that. So I will spend just a minute here looking at chat, right? Russian organized crime groups own a good bit. Yes, they do. Thank you, Mark, for watching the malware analysis video. I did appreciate that. We had a good time with it. Let me do my outro music so I keep myself here. So there we go. Guys, really enjoy doing First Things First with you. I hope you had a good time. Maybe walk away with some new knowledge around what's going on. If you see people in chat, I encourage you connect with them on LinkedIn. If they're chatting here, that means they're social. They're interested in talking about cybersecurity. If you are on our Discord, you can continue the conversation there. I know Kim's there, Tom's there, Mike Jones is always active on LinkedIn, Simon's active on LinkedIn. Great group of people who are involved in this community, and it's all about good times. So guys, if you have any feedback for me, DM me on LinkedIn or drop it in chat here for everybody to see. It's all good. I want to make First Things First the best part of your day, if not a good part of the day, something to look forward to. So let's get after it. It's December 28th. We'll talk tomorrow at 8 a.m., everybody. Be good. Stay safe. Thank you.